so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, welcome back to another episode. It is a fabulous Thursday. That's my ridiculous word that I made up, and I'm sticking to it. I've got Christopher David Jackson here with me to help steer the ship today. It's been a while, Chris. Welcome back, buddy.
Good morning. Yeah, lots of travel and all kinds of life things happening.
Adventures in 3D?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to kind of catch up with you and hear about some of those adventures and some of the learnings and takeaways. And that's the best thing, of course, about doing this as often as it's happening, 5 days a week is literally, it's like, oh, here's what I learned yesterday. Oh, here's what popped up 8 hours ago. Oh, so it's been weeks. So I know you, and I know you well enough to know there's some juicy takeaways from your adventures and life lessons and experiences. So, as always, when I have a co-host, I love to give them the reins as much as possible to sort of steer the ship. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, resistance has been coming up a lot lately. We've talked about wonderfulness before, which is kind of this new modality that's been coming through for me, and really a book that I'm now writing. It's a
cool.
system, for transformation and kind of like understanding all of the intricacies to being human. And how to be empowered in transforming ourselves and moving past resistance, moving out of survival consciousness and into thrival consciousness. And resistance seems to be like a big one that comes up. And, just recently, going over a passage in The Power of Now, it brought up this wonderful gift, in being able to, really separate our egos from our authentic or heart-centric selves. And
yeah, that's always a tricky one, I think, for people. It's like, where is the ego out of alignment, or where am I being sort of, seeing things from the small self as opposed to the higher self or expanded self, and differentiating that line, I think, is a tricky one for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that's made it easier for me, and especially like I'm very visual, I get a lot of things that come to me visually, like when I wake up, and it's almost like a special delivery message. And this one was, that most systems, are able to be overlaid with other systems. right? And Simon Sinek has this one that I love called the golden circle. And it really has to do with marketing, which, is really keen, with communication of any kind. Because when you think about it, we're always marketing ourselves everywhere that we go. If we're expressing ourselves, then there's a form of marketing, right? And, so in the golden circle, like he has there's 3 rings, there's a dot, and then, the first ring is Y. Actually, I don't think he has a dot in his, but I put a dot in mine. So the first ring is why, like, why does somebody want to listen to you?
Right.
And this connects to the limbic brain. Then you've got the next circle out from that, which is how you do what you do, whatever it is you're wanting to tell them about or sell, and how you do the why, right? And then finally you come to the outer ring, which is the what, what it is that you're talking about and what you're producing. And, what he said is that most people tend to always work from the outside in, and it really just isn't very compelling, and that it's all an inside job, and we keep coming back to this in all of the sacred teachings. And so this diagram has been really awesome. And it really brought home the id, the ego, and the superego recently, and kind of a new way to look at ourselves. And then mine has a dot in the center, which is, really the central self, which is the nothing. It's kind of like this vortex that they talk about in, was it Abraham? And
oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so the center point is really who and what we are as nothing and everything. And it could almost be likened to our hearts, because our hearts hold on to nothing and they create and empower everything.
Right.
And so there's this wonderful synthesis there of really centering ourselves in being love.
Right.
And that, connects to the whole wonderfulness aspect. But now looking at those rings, so there was this wonderful physical kind of example that came through, which was, if it's safe for you while you're listening to this to close your eyes, or if it's not, then perhaps just imagine centering, your awareness in your heart or in the center of your chest, and imagining yourself experiencing the greatest, most expansive love you could ever experience or have ever experienced. And as that begins to emanate in that center and you feel that sensation, breathe into it and experience it expanding, all the way up through your neck and into your face, down into your solar plexus and abdominals, and then taking your next deep breath, moving it all the way up above the crown of your head, down past your bottom of your feet and through your arms, and one more breath, expanding it out even wider, right? And how does that feel?
Feels amazing.
Awesome. Then, I want you to picture right in that central part of your chest, this E on one side, right? That begins to spin and create a box, basically, around your heart.
An E like the letter E?
Yeah, like a capital E.
Okay.
That creates a box around your heart. And now, how does that feel?
Feels good.
In terms of cutting off all of that expansive energy, as all of that outer energy collapses into that box, now that's all that's able to be experienced. So where you had that love energy surrounding your entire body before, now you've just put a box there containing it so that it can't get past that small space.
I see.
And this is a good way to think of our egos, because these egos are these things that we create. Well, in the first stage of our lives, we actually believe that they're being created for us. But the truth is that we're interpreting what's happening, and how people are treating us. And then we're creating our model of how we think we have to be to survive.
Right.
And then this creates resistance with that pure love and joy that we're capable of. It's like, oh, I can't be that expressive with people. I need to really contain myself because, they won't know what to do with me. Or, they'll take advantage of me, or I'll get punished, or whatever it is. So this structure is something that really limits us. And then as we move along in life, we start to see how, whenever we're experiencing resistance, which part of us is experiencing the resistance?
Right.
Is it the nothing in everything that holds on to nothing?
Definitely
If
not.
you hold on to nothing and you have everything, then there is no resistance, right?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not.
So then it comes down to an ego, battle.
Right.
And I would almost say that this is, your heart-centric or authentic self that is struggling and it's suffering.
Right.
And it was funny because I think Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now book, also spoke to the suffering happening, at the level of the ego viewing us as separate.
Right.
And that somehow we have to be better than, and, that we're not really being present in the now. And this wonderful thing to get past resistance, this simple thing was just to notice that there are two aspects of ourselves, right?
Right.
There's this ego and there is this heart-centric or authentic self, the watcher, the observer. And when those resistances come up, or these emotions or these negative thoughts, that we can actually just stop and say, oh, wow, I'm having a negative thought, and get present to it, but not place any significance on it. And then
watching it like clouds going across your mind kind of thing. It's something with practice that gets so much easier. At first, it's like we're always so immersed in this experience. It's like, these clouds come up and we are like diving in. I think I just watched earlier this morning a video of a guy in a wingsuit flying through like these crazy amounts of clouds, and it was just very magical looking. But in this case, that's what we've been doing for most of our lives. Here comes the cloud. I'm diving in fully. I'm like, I am immersing myself in it. This is me and I am it, and there's no separation between us. And this process, it's been a very slow and steady one for me, but I can even think of things coming up last night that were just ego thoughts that I'm like, oh, okay, I can see this thought and I can sort of observe it and I don't feel really attached to it. And instantly, it's so much easier now for me to create separation than it once was.
Yeah, and I think it's very empowering in the sense that, things don't take you down in the same way. I mean, as Eckhart Tolle was talking about in there, he said something about, that the emotion has control of you rather than you having control of the emotion, and it becomes you. And I think there's a function, I don't, necessarily want to get too much into, psychological language, but I hear so many people using the expression of the ego, and that's why I thought it would be a good one to talk about.
Yeah.
But the ego is also connected to the id, and the id, the importance of that to understand, and why it's so easy for us to automatically react from the ego perspective, is because that's what the id does. Right. And the id identifies with everything that's in the ego. And then it becomes, that's where our reactive survival consciousness is, so it's like, as soon as something threatens, the identity of our ego self that we've accepted as ourselves, then we have to defend ourselves immediately.
Right.
And as we start just using this practice of, I actually like to think now in terms of, as you've got that box around your heart as an image of what the ego does, it really limits you in your expression of yourself, and even to your own self, right? Because it contains all kinds of negative thoughts that we speak on ourselves and repressions that we put on ourselves. So I like to think of, like, rather than us looking to kill the ego or destroy the ego, I think of, I think the ego is a beautiful thing in the sense that it gives us the ability to see ourselves as individuals, in time and space, and
navigate 3D.
At the same time, we can separate from it and use it as a tool. And then I like to say that we expand our ego. And there's this great kind of picture also that I like to place inside of myself when I imagine, survival consciousness is all about the me-go, like M-E-G-O, right?
Right.
And you look at the letter M, and the M is closed down. It's like, I'm all about myself. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do everything by myself, how I'm alone in the world, and I've got to fight to survive and do whatever I can to get what I want.
Right.
Well, when I flip that upside down, or right side up, maybe, into the we go.
Right. And everything's open.
The W, it's open to all the resources in the world.
Yeah, I love that.
Which aligns with a lot of the stuff like I've heard you sharing, I think, in regards to Abraham and Esther Hicks also, which is, that you have, well, and we've talked about this too, you have everything around you at all times. It's just not knowing how to access it. And a big part of that is by viewing ourselves in separation and viewing ourselves as this ego rather than viewing the ego as a tool that we can expand. Yeah. To include everybody. Include everything.
It's in the right context, the ego is a wonderful, wonderful part of this experience. It's kind of like I think of a car, for example. It has all kinds of different parts. The tire is a wonderful, necessary part of that vehicle moving, but if I take the tire and remove it and try and swap it out for the steering wheel, I'm probably going to have a problem. It's like it needs to be in its correct place and in its right perspective. And so much of what's happened in our society is the ego is like steering the ship when it's really meant to be. I think of the song by I Love Sting is like one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters. Just it's so much amazing music. And his song, Let Your Soul Be Your Pilot. Like that's really what we're talking about ultimately, is moving into that observer space and not, operating from, this cloud popped up and now I'm just going fully. And this is, I've been talking a lot about The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer recently. It's very similar in a lot of ways to The Power of Now, but, his own sort of angle and perspectives, and talking a lot about the heart being all things are your heart, is your heart opened or closed? It's like another way of like kind of looking at this. And if you are closing your heart habitually, like a valve, opening and closing it all day, every day. If I say something to someone that's really, expansive and uplifting and making them feel good, it blasts their heart open. If I say something that's a trigger for them, their heart closes, and then this process just goes about all day, every day, and a lot of times these habitual triggers and things are from childhood, and even smells and sights can open and close the heart. And it's like once you understand that this is sort of, you're doing this sort of unconsciously, and you make it all very conscious, now you realize the only thing to do is to retrain so your heart is always open and letting, like you were just talking about, letting it all completely flow through and accepting and loving it all, as this sort of observer state. And then you become truly a fountain, because the energy flow is tied to that. And so the energy is just, if it's always open, you retrain yourself for your heart to always be open, then you're just constantly calling in all the energy of source, life force, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's a really powerful way to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, just noticing when you're experiencing those resistances, to things, that very often, you may have intuitions or emotions, that come up, that those are often experienced at the level of the ego and the id. And another term, I think we've used this before on the show, but around the id it's literally the part of us that can make us, or does make us in the first stages of our lives, idiots. Which means a private person. It means that you're only able to perceive reality through the filter of your beliefs that very often are not even conscious to you anymore, because they've disappeared into just how you believe you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear people say this all the time, that this is just the way I am.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
as if we're fixed, these fixed things that we came here and we never change. Like that's a crazy statement, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, this is the way I am. Well, sure, it's the way you are in this moment, and the more you restate it, it is so. At the same time, it's and even more so as we start getting into quantum, mechanics and quantum physics, we see that when we say something, well, and this also I get from the hypnotherapy study, and the subconscious behaviorism. When we make a statement about ourselves, our subconscious writes that down into our id, and our ego.
Right.
And then it reinforces it. And then we constantly are gathering evidence. Like we'll see something, I may see somebody get out of a red car. And because I had, somebody attack me once from a red car, I immediately think I'm going to be attacked.
Yeah.
And I pull a gun on that person, and it's totally outlandish, but that's, in a way, that's how we operate at those levels on more subtle ways. We start gathering evidence for things and looking at people, creating separation.
Yeah.
Which actually then creates the space for more suffering, and it reinforces the idea and the reality that we're all alone. And really, we're creating that reality for ourselves, and then we pass it on to others.
Yeah, it's something that, it may be a slight tangent on what you're saying there, but I feel very strongly that this whole evolution that we are going through, our own collective and personal evolution, is like, okay, you're moving more and more into this creator role where there is no lag between your thoughts and beliefs and what you're giving energy to and what shows up in your reality. And as we sort of bridge that gap that maybe has been there historically, it's like we're sort of being trained to, it's like we're not thrown in the deep end of the pool. Where imagine if like someone who's very new on this journey, their own spiritual journey, is thrown in, okay, from this moment forward, everything you think is going to instantly manifest. Like they probably would be destroyed by like the State Puff Marshmallow Man within like 15 minutes. Like I think a Ghostbusters movie, right? It was that exact thing. It's like this is all a process of us training ourselves to really monitor and be aware of what you were just saying. Like you are that powerful. You're creating it. with your thoughts and energy. And I feel like that's where we're at. We're somewhere in this process. Like my thoughts are more powerful and manifest more now than maybe they did a week ago. Certainly I would say 10 years ago or when I was a child. And so it's fascinating to think as we get better at this, then we're like, okay, Chris has leveled up. Let's give him the next level version of manifestation, the art of manifestation, which I believe will become the true great art form on our planet in the future, where it's like, how proficient are you at managing your own thoughts, vibrations, beliefs to create that which you want to see. And we're not going to throw you in the deep end of that pool and give you too much power with that too soon, where you just, get eaten by the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or whatever else you imagine.
I have some theories on that, but that's maybe for a deeper dive sometime.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been developing this document for Grateful Generation that's called, we've got our Declaration of Interdependence, which anybody can see on our Facebook page and soon to be up on our website as well. And then, our Constitution, and then a Bill not of Rights, which are, scarcity and survival based, but a Bill of Opportunities. And I would love to share some of those, as they've been coming through, because it's actually been like, wow, this is such an amazing process. And to just have a list of all of the reminders of how much power we have in every day and all of these wonderful opportunities to raise the vibration and experience for others, for ourselves, and for the planet.
Yeah.
It's been exciting.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that you're still sort of documenting and putting down, or you've
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fully exhausted list yet. And I don't know if it may be like many core documents like this, where they're living documents, we continue to add things to them. But so far it's actually, it started with, 3 basic areas and, prime opportunities. And it's that we have the ability of choice to be empowered with and integrated as one with reality and life, whereby we can thrive with grace and ease, or disempowered and disintegrated, where we merely survive with the use of force and effort and withdrawal. And so then the first thing that came underneath this were the prime opportunities. One was kind thoughts. We have the power to influence the energy flow and experience of energy flow within ourselves and with each other by choosing the thoughts that we hold on to, center ourselves in, and identify with.
Cool.
So
love that.
Whatever thoughts we choose to hold on to, those are going to be the energy that we're kind of left emotionally experiencing and kind of emanating out for people around us, right?
Right.
Then the other was kind words. We have the opportunity to use kind words towards ourselves and others that empower us in each present moment towards our greatest possible outcomes with ourselves, each other, and the world. We may use words to either describe reality in a way that adds, diminishes, or omits value. So this was something that was really helpful too. Just like how we're talking about separating from the ego, there's a power in relating to what's happening from a phenomenon perspective, which is just describing the actions that are there. And then there is the interpretive aspect of our mind that can create a story about it.
Right.
So, and the story is often what gives us the emotional experience of it.
Right.
Right. It's like if I got hit in the head with a ball, the pain comes and then it's gone. But if I all of a sudden create a story that person disrespected me,
right,
or whatever, then I actually experience that emotionally as something on myself. And then I get angry with them, and I may go and create a negative experience for them.
Right.
Maybe that person was on their way to apologize, but now because I'm, running after them to attack them, they're like, screw you.
Right.
So we have this ability to really, like, we don't control circumstances, but we really are in control of the trajectory in this present moment of what happens from those circumstances.
Right. Right. We can totally control how we proactively engage with any circumstance. That's really where all of our power is, because life is always going to throw things at you that you didn't foresee. That's like definitely a major, life's what happens when your plans don't work out a lot of times. And it's how we deal with it is everything. And, we were talking about the importance of being kind. I think of, I've seen it attributed to Henry James and Mother Teresa. It looks like more people are attributed to Henry James, but he said 3 things in human life are important. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. And I love that. I just think it's so beautiful. Super powerful.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah, and I'm just realizing as we're saying this, it's like, it's also, it's integration versus disintegration. The mind separates us. The heart connects to everything.
Yeah.
It holds on to nothing, and so, it empowers everything. It just loves. And so if you're constantly coming from that place, and then we've talked before also about how, that person who seems like your greatest adversary or your greatest enemy is actually your greatest opportunity to have a best friend for life.
Yeah. Yep.
Because those are the moments where, when we're gracious with somebody who's being ugly or messy, it's like, how do you know when somebody really loves you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many great stories that I think of. Return of the Bird Tribe's one of my favorite books, and that's a big theme of the story. Like, one of the main characters is going to kill another, and the one that's about to be killed is like surrendering in love, and it just completely transforms the one who's about to kill him, and he goes from his greatest adversary in that moment to being completely transformed in his greatest supporter. And I think that is such a beautiful way to look at approaching the adversaries in your life. These truly are. And it was, I also think back to one of my favorite interviews with Dr. Eben Alexander, who, had meningitis and his brain was destroyed, and he was in a coma for a week, and he experienced on the other side this, Harvard neurosurgeon. You guys can search for it if you want to go back and listen. It's an epic episode. If you search Eben Alexander, Eben is, I believe, how he spells his first name. But he basically said, look, one of the things that in my week on the other side, I found was the greatest villains, adversaries in your life are those that you're closest to, typically on the other side. They're the ones who love you so much, they're willing to play that role, and oftentimes lose themselves in the process and really lower their vibration to be that, shithead, individual or whatever. And so to me, that's really helped to sort of process some of my own, life experiences around really close friends who then, have betrayed me or whatever. I have a story that I've shared many times in regards to that. And so it's like, they're playing their role. Cool. Like, thank you. And it's such a transformative way to approach these types of situations.
Yeah, and what gift to have people that love you fully no matter what in your life, so that that you can be messy. And it's almost like, I feel like it, over the past however many years, I've really been creating a whole new family. Not just our relatives, that we have.
Me
but,
too.
You really get this opportunity to create family with people in these moments where they're maybe ugly or nasty, and you're
challenging.
able to, and you're, what's that?
challenging moments that you transform, right?
Yeah. And they end up being like your best friends and allies for life. It's amazing.
Yep. Really is. Well, this has been amazing, Chris. Thank you, as always, for coming on and sharing your insights and wisdom.
Thank you.
You truly are family to me. And speaking of, and I appreciate all that you're doing in the world. And also, let's maybe mention, for those of you who are in the Los Angeles area, on my birthday, Abundance, Chris's event, and it's your birthday is a couple days after.
Right. So we're celebrating both of our birthdays at the Velasco downtown. And if you go to theticketferry.com right now, very special. We've never done this before. We're actually giving everybody the opportunity to come to the show for free by RSVPing and showing up before 10 p.m.
Dude, that's so awesome. Wow, what a birthday it will be. A birthday celebration. I hope to see all of you guys there. And any of you who can get to Los Angeles on July 28th. And you go to, so to get to the link, Chris, theticketferry.com, is there like a /
They can find the event. It's called Abundance, and the theme is Wild Divine. So we what's the word I'm looking for? Inspire or invite people to dress up as like their wild animal expression of themselves, and that divine, authentic,
love it,
self that they are.
It's going to be a wild birthday. I look forward to celebrating it with you, Chris, and everyone who's listening. And with that being said, I have a song to leave you with today. This is Ero Time. I hope I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right. And it's Erothyme. Great artist. Retroactive Enchantment is the name of the song. Hope you guys enjoy. Until next time, journey well. Love you all so much. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.